Hey guys, this is Al again. I'm back at the shop. So I came here sometime during the week, during the evening, and as I mentioned, I ordered a fuel pump on eBay. It came with a full assembly, including one of these pipes. And this pipe, as you can see, let me see if I can give you a good picture of it. It's pretty kicked, right? So I replaced this one. And then I started the car. I was still having an issue with the running. It was running still very rich. It was running rough, and it got me thinking about what else could be the problem. So one of the things that I suspect is going on right now is that maybe that O2 sensor on the front is bad, and I don't know much about how those work. You think the scan tool's reading that the O2 sensor is reading full rich, which would make me want to think that the computer would want to back all the way off the fuel, and you'd actually have a lean condition. But I don't know exactly how it works. I did do a little bit of testing, and I have brought my OmniCheck with me as well. So we're going to plug that in right now and see what's going on. But this is a couple of things that I did. This is one of the things that I did. I'll bring the camera. Alright, so not sure if you can see, but where this plug is, this plug that I'm holding right here. No, it's not. It's this plug over here. This is the plug that connects the O2 sensor to the computer. And what I did is, with the ignition on, so as I understand it, basically, the O2 sensor reads between 0 and 1 volt, and based on whether it's closer to 0 or closer to 1 volt determines how rich the engine runs. I just basically poked a hole with my probe on this sensor. But when I plug in to this, I get 0.91. I don't know whether you can see that on the screen, but I get 0.91, and that's with the engine off. So that has me wondering if there's a problem with that sensor. I'm also going to plug in the OmniTech and see what kind of readings these guys read, and then I can compare it to the readings on the Turbo R. Because I don't trust my hotel. It's not that I don't trust it, right? I mean, it's a good scan tool, but I know that this Bentley was built around the era when OBD2 wasn't really that commonly used on on these cars. If you plug into the Arnage, for example, you can read a whole pile of information. You really can't read that much on these SC cars. I'm going to plug in the OmniCheck, and then we'll see what kind of readings we get from that guy as well. 0 RPM, the engine's turned off, 0% throttle position, manifold pressure 99 kPa, which I'm guessing is air pressure, lambda sensor 0.99 volts. So this O2 sensor is reading 1 volt with the ignition turned off. I don't think that that's supposed to be right. That doesn't sound right to me. So fuel trim, idle fuel trim, coolant temperature sensor is where it should be. Alright. So let's do this. Let's go over to the Turbo R. I was suspecting that there was a problem with the O2 sensor because when I measured the voltage while the O2 sensor was, while the engine was off, the O2 sensor was already reading 9.91 volts. which didn't sound right on my multimeter, but when I plugged my scan tool in, it was also reading the same. So I took the scan tool, plugged it into the Turbo R, and I was getting a similar result until I started the engine up. When I started the engine up, the O2 sensor readings dropped down to 0.45 volts, which is right in the middle, so of where it needs to be. I think that's pretty much where it's supposed to be. I plugged it back into the Brooklands, cranked it up again, it read the same. But the engine still runs pretty rough, so I'm trying to figure out what the story is there. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to try to find my stethoscope, because I do have one over here, and I'm going to try to find those injectors, and they're buried somewhere down there. But I'm going to see if I can hear the injectors clicking. If one of the injectors isn't clicking, it may be stuck open. If it's stuck open, that could be why it's causing the problem. So I'm going to try to find the injectors. If I can stick a probe to them so that I can hear them, then I should be able to troubleshoot this problem a little bit more. So I'm going to turn the camera off because I'm going to have to poke around, and then hopefully I'll be able to find it and then get back. Thank you. Alright guys, so I was running it, I couldn't find the injectors. I know that they're down there, but I couldn't find a way to access them with my probe, with my stethoscope. But something weird happened. Like while I was running, it was progressively starting to run worse. And then when I did check the O2 sensor on the scan tool, it was reading 1.27 volts, which is way rich. I shut the engine off, I cleared the codes, I started the engine back up again, and it's back to where it should be reading, which is 0.45 and around there. But I just looked at it right now and it's gone back to 1.27 volts. So take a look at this. So as you can see it, but it's reading right there, 1.27 volts. Shut it off, communication fails, because obviously the engine's off. Turn it back on, go back into live data. Lambda sensor. So now it's reading 0.99 volts, which is what it was reading when I put my multimeter to it. And it's going back to reading normally. So for some reason, while the engine's running, it decides to flip to full rich. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know whether that's the O2 sensor that's doing that or the computer that's doing that. I don't know. Alright guys, I can't say anything other than I'm grasping at straws right now, but on the other side. This is the old O2 sensor, and it's basically caked in black. I don't know, like I said, I mean it seems like it was functioning normally until it just went full rich. I'm not sure if that's a function of the O2 sensor, or the O2 sensor is a problem, or there's some other sensor that's a problem that's causing it to run full rich, and the O2 sensor is just reporting it. But what it would do is it would kind of bounce between 4 and 5, basically 0.4 and 0.5 volts until it just flips over to 1.27, probably when it goes into closed loop. I dug around. I'm going to order the proper O2 sensor, but I did find an O2 sensor from one of my other cars. It's also a 4-wire one. So I'm going to try to splice this in, see if it behaves any differently. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm ordering a new O2 sensor right now because I'm grasping at straws, and it's not an expensive O2 sensor. The correct O2 sensor, for your information, is Bosch 13330, which is the correct one for these cars. And I'm just going to order one anyway. So when that comes, I'll replace the O2 sensor anyway, but I'm going to try it with this just to see if I can make any progress today. Alright guys, I've got everything back together again, and I put the scan tool on the car. Didn't make a bit of difference. The car behaved exactly the same way with the old O2 sensor as it does with a new O2 sensor. So again, I'm perplexed. I did find this connector over here, and then there's another one right here. There. And they don't go together, right? This one was basically just tucked in. It was just basically tucked into the connections over here, and then this one's right, just basically sitting there. I have no idea where they go. They don't seem to connect to anything upstream, so I've got no idea. I don't know whether that's connected or related or unrelated, but in any case, this car is running crazy rich, and you know, I don't really understand all of the diagnostic systems on this car. I mean, I've got the scan tool. The scan tool's reading the O2 sensors. The O2 sensors are bouncing up and down for like 5 minutes, like they should, and then all of a sudden they peg out 1.27. The fuel trim acts like it's being dialed back. It's in the negative numbers, which would indicate that the computer is trying to dial back the trim. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the deal is. I think the next thing I'm going to do is try to put a fuel pressure gauge on it and see if the fuel pressure is too high. I can't hear the, I mean, I can hear the injectors by putting my stethoscope on the fuel rail, but I'm not able to individually check each injector, so I don't know whether one's stuck open. For all I know, one could be. But I can hear them clicking. Obviously the car's running, so it's definitely... You can tell there's a bit of a rough idle. It's a miss, but it's showing up as a random misfire. It's not showing up on a particular cylinder in itself. So I don't know. The exhaust is spitting out water, so the cats are doing what they should be doing. It doesn't smell like coolant or anything. It just smells like water. So any ideas? Please let me know. Be interested. That's it. That's me done for the day. Hopefully my brake calipers for the SL should come in tomorrow, and I can change gears. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.